Welcome to Paw Print Academy, your blueprint to raising better dogs. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your host for this journey. I've got my trusty co-host here, Brianna.
Hello.
And together we're bringing you real-world training insights built on leadership, structure, and proven methods. We record this podcast with live clients on the line in one take with live, unscripted questions and answers. At the end of the day, this podcast is a lot more than just teaching your dog to sit or stay. It's about building trust, creating calmness, and becoming the kind of leader your dog truly needs. We do that with our 3-pillar method of trust, obey, and perform. Together, we'll show you how these 3 pillars shape every step of training. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right. Hey, everybody. This is episode 16, Sit Down, Stay, Building Duration Without Frustration. You like that?
Yep. Love it.
Love it. Tonight we have, tonight's a little bit of a stranger night because apparently there was some crazy outage with cell phone towers and pretty much all of Verizon on the East Coast.
Yep.
And so our invitation with the links to dial in and such did not go out to very many people today.
Yeah.
So it is what it is, but we'll make it work, and we're going to drive on, and we always have these things recorded, and all of our clients can kind of download them later for the call side, and then on the podcast side, it'll go live on Monday.
Yeah.
So today we are talking about sit down, stay is like what I titled it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the most basic commands.
Oh yeah.
That most people think of when they're talking about dog training. Mm-hmm. When someone is like, when my friends show me videos or give me updates on their dogs, they're like, they sit so good, or they down and they can hold it down and I can go all the way over in the other room. Mm-hmm. It's always a source of pride to get dogs listening, right? In any sort. Yeah. But in that sit down stay is kind of the great trio of dog training.
Yeah.
And so tonight we're going to talk about it.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So sit down and stay. Teach impulse control. They teach stability. They teach patience. So these commands, they create a dog who waits calmly and listens under some amount of pressure.
Yeah.
Right. And we can kind of like dial that pressure up with distance, duration, and distraction. Yep. But they also respect boundaries. It's the first few commands where we can kind of start to teach a dog those boundaries. Yeah. And the expectations, what we expect from them.
Yeah, and I think increasing the ask in those basic commands is where you start seeing your dog like kind of change and adapt and build in impulse control. So a lot of people are like, well, sitting down isn't important to me. I don't really care. But sitting down are so many different other things than just sitting down. Right.
No one I have yet to ever be hired to teach a dog sitting down.
Right, and we can
0
have dogs,
evals.
Yeah, we can have dogs that come in and they're aggressive, and we're still going to first off start by teaching that dog all of the basic commands.
Correct.
Because you can't ask a dog to do something else unless they know something else to do.
Right. It's like an implied skill to get at the heart of other things.
Yep.
So, and then to add that in, right, one of the big, so the 3 Ds of dog training, of proofing dog training, is distance, duration, and distraction. And we're going to talk a little bit about duration today and how we build that. But duration is built through clarity, structure, and fair expectations, not randomly elongating the amount of time that they sit down or stay.
Yep.
Right. I want to add that it's not just about repetition, and it's also not about haphazardly doing it. It's about adding those three in small increments. We talked a little bit about that last week in how to increase both duration and distance kind of hand in hand.
Yeah.
But today we're going to apply it to some other commands.
Yep.
So our first, to start, let's talk about teaching it. And in order to teach it, we've got to be super clear to the dog. And we also have to really dial in our accuracy.
Yeah.
Because dogs have this concept of generalization that all dogs are going to relate whatever that is that they've been asked to do, whatever it is that they do, they're going to relate that to a whole bunch of variables. And those variables they could be all sorts of things that you don't even realize, right? It could be the tone in your voice that they locked onto.
Yep.
It could be the fact that they sat facing the sliding glass door.
Yeah.
And every time that you have had them sit, they've been facing that sliding glass door. And so when they hear sit, they immediately relate that sliding glass door somehow to the equation.
Yep.
And so to achieve generalization, we've got to be accurate in our variables, but then we have to start adding in other variables and changing the stimulus. So we move them to other rooms. We take them outside. We do all sorts of different things.
Yep.
So let's jump into it. So right off the bat, we've got to use really clean food lures. Food luring is our first language that we always teach clients, and it's the first thing that the dog's going to understand. And usually when we're talking about a dog that we're teaching to sit, that is far and away the number one thing that everyone teaches their dog.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the simplest and easiest and also the proudest moment in most people's lives.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, I taught him to sit. When you get a new dog, that's like the very first thing that people usually tend to practice.
Yep.
So there is an unlikelihood that we're talking about, if we're talking about teaching a sit, we're probably not talking about like an older dog that you had for a long time.
Yeah.
But so it's probably like a younger dog, or it's a new rescue, or something that happened, and now you're teaching it to sit for the first time.
Yeah.
So when we first start working with a dog, we always use food lures, and we lure a dog into that position until they are used to it, until they start offering it, and then we can start naming it.
Yep. But what if, so here's a side note, but still goes very much along with that.
Go for it.
What if you can't use a food lure? So I ran into this today, right? So there's some dogs that aren't super food motivated, right? Or under pressure, just really are not going to do it. So today, in the instance, I was working on a place bed. Dog's totally used to it. And I start working on a down because we had already gotten in a sit. So we're working on down. Dog will not food lure. Also, a smaller dog, super close to the ground. And so I could tell that we were just going to have a hard time on the place bed. Although she had been on the place bed, was comfortable with it, no problem. Moved her to a different platform, did the same thing, still doing nothing, right? And at this point, I was trying leash pressure because she was used to leash pressure. Just not going to do it. Super uncomfortable with it. So went to the next thing. I went to her bed that she loves, soft, comfy, warm bed, waited for her to lay down, and marked it with a clicker as soon as she did, and tossed the food away from her. And so she got out of the bed and went to go get it, went back to the bed, laid down again. I marked it with a clicker.
Nice.
So there are some things that you can do kind of, and will have to do for different dogs to shape those behaviors before you can even go through like a food lure or leash pressure or any of that.
Yeah.
So fun story for today.
Awesome.
Yeah, because for most dogs, you're going to use a food lure. Most dogs are going to be food motivated enough. And if you're teaching sit, typically it's going to be a younger dog. And the younger the dog is, the more food motivated the dog is going to be. So luring a dog with food initially into a sit position is going to be as simple as raising the food up most of the time above the dog's head until they bring their butt down. Naturally, that's a movement that dogs do without kind of a lot of guidance for the most part with the typical dog. If it's an older dog, they may be a little bit confused at first, but the key to most things that we tell people is patience and just waiting for your dog to kind of figure it out, because them figuring it out builds their confidence that they can and will do new things.
So let's talk about some of the basics that we want to have in place in order to start this sit down stay process. Mm-hmm. So food luring, super easy and important on dogs that are food motivated. We can build that food motivation by teaching a dog to work for their food. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. But we can slowly increase the amount that the dog kind of works for that food in order to get it. Then, once we've established that food motivation, we can use that food to lure the dog into these positions and then use marker words or a clicker. A clicker, which is some sort of auditory command or sound or stimulus to tell the dog that, hey, you did the right thing and that's something that I want you to repeat. The timing for that is going to be super, super important. We have to mark, the science says that we've got about 1 to 1.5 seconds to mark a behavior that you want the dog to repeat. Or you have to mark the behavior you don't want the dog to repeat, right? So we have to have balance, our good and our bad, our yes and our no. With that, we want to use some sort of auditory cue to tell the dog that they've done the right thing. For us, we use free as a terminal marker, meaning you're done. You did the right thing and you're done. Come to me and get a treat. And then we use yes as a continuation marker, meaning that good job, you've done the right thing, but I want you to continue to do it. So at the point where we get into our markers, we have to have established a pattern of the behavior that we can then reinforce with our words. Mm-hmm. What that means is that I need to get the dog to be able to do and repeat the behavior a few times before I can start relating a word to it. Mm-hmm. At that point, at the point where they're offering the behavior, they're doing it over and over, like what Brianna was talking about, where the dog was going back to the place bed, then she can start relating and tying a word or a command into that. Mm-hmm. And at that point, we start reinforcing that word with our terminal marker, and we put it all together. So now I'm luring the dog towards me. I bring my hands up. The dog's nose comes with that food, comes up. Their butt goes down. They sit. At the moment that their butt hits the floor, then I can mark it, or I'm still out of order. I don't know what's going on with my brain today. At the point where their butt hits the ground, I can reissue that command. I can say sit, so that I pattern the word sit with the actual action. That's how we start naming the command. We don't name it first. We don't say sit, and then we just hope that they're going to sit.
Right.
We pattern it as they're doing it.
Yep.
So now their butt hits the ground, and right as it hits the ground, I go sit. And then I follow that with my marker that I've already charged. We did a whole podcast on charging those markers earlier, but I charge up a marker, some sort of word that has that value that they know a treat is coming. And I then give them that terminal marker after they've sat and I've named it. Typically, that terminal marker will cause the dog to break their command and go and get their treat. And that sets you up for that next repetition.
Yep.
All right. So we want to avoid repeating the cue, because repeating the cue, if I just go sit and then the dog doesn't sit, I'm stuck, because either now I repeat the cue, which lowers or lessens the value of that cue, or I have to correct the dog somehow.
Yep.
Whether that is some sort of, no matter what that correction is, it is too early in the process to be correcting the dog,
Right.
because they don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
So it doesn't even matter what the correction is. A correction could just be spatial pressure, where you just step towards the dog and you're like, no. But at this point, the dog doesn't even know what they did or didn't do.
Right.
So it's not fair.
Yep.
And so we shy away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, you just got to be brilliant in those basics, and you got to not repeat that cue. You have to be patient, and you got to wait.
Right. I have a dog that I'm working with right now that will stare at me for like 30 seconds straight, just staring. And I just stare back. And then finally I get the behavior and I throw a big party. But it's all about letting the dog think through it and letting the dog process. Did they ask me to do this? Do I really have to do this? It seems like I have to do this. And then you get the behavior that you're looking for without going back and forth with your dog.
Yeah. So then we've got to reward the dog. Also, at the same time as for the command, we can also reward calmness through the whole process. We use a terminal marker, that marker that says, okay, go ahead and get up. We use that one to build speed and enthusiasm and excitement. Mm-hmm. But we'll use a continuation marker, our yes marker, to build calmness and duration. Mm-hmm. Even the way that we say it can be different, right? When I'm using free, I'm going to be real excited about it. Free. Mm-hmm. And when I'm using yes, I can calm that voice down a little bit, calm my tone.
Yep.
And what that does is it kind of leads the dog and guides the dog, even with your voice and your tone, to know kind of what you're expecting. Mm-hmm. All right. So, and then the last piece of this is that we want to build stability first before we layer in that duration and the distraction and the distance.
Right.
So you've got to get the dog really good. Mm-hmm. Really good at first on the command. And so what that looks like is 30, 40, 50, 60 repetitions, right?
Yeah.
That
lots of practice.
Awesome. Yeah. We have to start there, because you can't just go, oh, wow, they're sitting over here. Now let me change the picture. Yep. We've got to really build that brilliance in those basics. And so before you move on, you need to have that sit at the verbal level, right? Yeah. There's 3 languages that we teach: our food luring, then our leash pressure, and then our verbal commands in those orders so that we can layer those and ask the dog for the command, but use different levels of guidance and different levels of accountability.
Yeah. Right, because that's what's important is if you don't rep it out enough times and you're not successful enough times with even just strictly verbal, then if you move on to like stepping outside and the dog fails, then is that the dog's fault or did we just move too quickly?
Yeah. All right. What's your favorite way to teach down?
Shaping is one of them, just capturing it when the dog does it naturally, because depending on the dog, a lot of dogs will just lay down wherever you are if they are standing there long enough. So 1 is shaping and capturing. 2 is going to be, I don't even know what to call it, but like the little rock game where you put your hand over the food and they just try to get it. Typically that will lead a dog into the position of down and they will lay down while trying to get the food. Mm-hmm. So you're not really putting a whole bunch of pressure on the dog. They're just kind of having a good time and trying to get at what they want. And then as soon as they plop down to inevitably work on getting the food in a more comfortable position, you can mark and release the reward. Nice.
So I typically will take that food and I'll draw them towards me, right? So that they're in a stand and they're walking kind of towards me. And as their body is moving forward, I'll drop that food in my hand, drop it right between their paws. And because a lot of dogs learn to do down after a sit.
Yeah.
Right. So biomechanically, it's really hard for dogs to do that. Like a competition down, you want the dog to fold actually backwards. Yeah. And so there's kind of 2 different ways of teaching it. Depends on whether the dog is, brand new or if they already know the sitting down. So, but typically I have a lot better efficacy in drawing the dog forward because they're used to it. Mm-hmm. If they've never done it before, then going from a stand and kind of giving them a little bit of pressure right into their nose, right? Mm-hmm. And then dropping it down in between their paws oftentimes gets that, like, they automatically kind of back up just a tad.
Yeah.
And as they kind of loosen their, the muscles that are like holding them up, right? And then they just kind of fold backwards, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
All right, and then the same thing. Once we've got that food lure down there a couple of times, then we can start naming the command by, as soon as they go into the down, I can name it down. And then I can start slowly each time naming it just a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely until eventually you're I don't know what the right word is, but you're saying it before.
Yeah.
And then
prefacing
their movement with the command.
Yeah.
For stay, this is really, really easy if you've built in terminal and continuation markers before this point. Because our stay, the way that we teach it and the way that I use it in my dogs, is implied. Mm-hmm. And it's implied that if I haven't given you the command free, then you're not free. Yeah. And you're not doing it. You're not moving. Mm-hmm. So I go down and then I use yes. Yes means, hey, good job. Here we go. I'm going to give you a treat, but stay right there. Stay in the position.
Yeah.
If you haven't taught that, and this is your very, first time doing stay, then you've got to do the same process, but you're going to start you're going to start building a tiny little bit of distance each time that you're issuing the stay command.
Yeah.
So you're going to go stay, you're going to take a little half step away, and then you're going to come back. And I'm a huge supporter of like the contact release when you're trying to teach stay.
Yeah.
Because it makes it very, very crystal clear for the dog. And what that means is that you're just going to reach out and just touch them on the nose or on the head or something like that nicely, right? And you're just reaching out, and then you give them the okay or the free or the release or whatever at the moment that you're actually touching them.
Yeah.
That builds the dog's nervous system to look for that proximity to you rather than for you to just randomly issue a command like free from across
Also
the room.
great for a multi-dog household, so they know which dog you're talking to.
Exactly. Yep. Really good. What are some of the like common mistakes that you see when we go into down, really sit and down?
Not marking it at the right time, either too early or too late. Most of the time it's too late.
Right. So that's a good one. Like, let's talk about that for a second. So, right. I said it earlier, before I got all twisted up with my words, that we've got about 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
That's what the science books say. I didn't make it up, but they say that the dog understands what you're marking.
Yeah.
For about 1.5 seconds. Some dogs will be longer. That's fine. And especially once they're trained, once they know what's expected, you can get a little longer out of there.
Yeah.
But when you're first marking a brand new behavior, you've got to be quick about it.
Yeah. And my second one was making a dog hold a duration, sit or down for too long, too soon.
Yeah.
Or adding too much distraction.
Right. And I think both of those go hand in hand, right? So, because that's why people are usually late. People are late because they're like down, and then the dog goes down, and then they just stare at them for a minute or two, right? Not a minute or two, but like a few seconds.
Yeah.
And then they're like, yeah, great job. Well, that was duration.
Yeah.
If you're not marking it immediately as soon as they're going into a down, then you are already working on duration. And duration is a variable of proofing.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't proof a command if the dog doesn't understand it yet.
Right,
if you haven't taught it and you haven't taught it thoroughly, you can't proof it.
Right. So when we're teaching it, the first like 20, 30, 40 reps, however many, are always down, free.
Right.
Down,
we're always
free.
using the terminal marker first.
Immediately, as soon as all the elbows touch.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. If you're not using that terminal marker and you're starting with a continuation marker, you're setting yourself up for failure, and you're setting you and the dog at odds right off the bat.
Right.
Duration will always be part of the proofing process. All right. How about creeping?
Ugh, creeping's a hard one. It's so annoying.
So creeping is where a dog sits, right? And they are on a hardwood floor, and their like paws are like slipping out from under them, and they go to like, move in order to stabilize themselves. But then you don't correct them because you are like, oh, well, they were just sliding.
Right.
And then they're like, cool, I can get a little closer. Right. And then I can get a little closer, and I can get a little closer. And then they find that, oh, I can just creep up on you.
Right.
Or they spontaneously try it.
Yeah.
Right. They're in a down, and then they kind of do the little army crawl.
Right. Because they want to stretch out their back legs or something.
Right.
Yeah. So train on a different surface.
Yep.
We have like a rug we pull out for training dogs on, so they're not slipping around everywhere.
On the hardwood floor.
Yeah. And then 2 is I usually use like a little bit of leash pressure and some body pressure to push the dog back or just correct them back with body pressure to the original location.
Yeah.
Because
Spatial pressure is my favorite.
Right. Because that's the problem is if you ask a dog for a down and they army crawl 2 feet, well, they're going to do it again if you don't correct them back to the original spot. So if you don't do that, then they're just going to start moving around wherever. And a down is a down until a dog is down way over there and not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anything that you don't correct or re-require,
Yeah.
your dog will find acceptance in it.
Yeah.
And then if they liked it or it was useful to them,
Right.
like they got closer to you, it was convenient, then they're going to do it again.
Yeah.
So, all right. So now let's talk about building duration.
Yep.
So now we've taught the commands, we've reinforced the commands.
Yeah.
The commands are now on a verbal basis, at least in their most simple form.
Yeah.
Now, how do we build duration?
So I usually start with duration. Oh, is that a question or you want me to jump into?
Yeah. Well,
Oh, okay. So
like,
I always start duration on a place bed because a dog doesn't have to be in a sit or a down. It can be standing on the place bed. So I like to do the equation of like 3 yeses equals a free at that point. So I will stand by the dog and it depends on the dog. So some dogs super like frantic, excited, like you have to go yes, 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 free, like super fast.
right.
Some dogs understand pretty quickly and are more patient than others and are just a little bit calmer, to be honest. And you can kind of, yes, step back, yes, step forward, step back, yes, step forward, and then free off of it. But it is very dog dependent how fast you have to go from the beginning.
Right.
Sometimes you can't even step 1 foot away from the bed before the dog is like, no, where are you going? So my trick around that is usually I will drop the reward on the place bed, kind of on the like opposite side of me, so that the dog turns to eat it and I can kind of sneak 1 step away while they're being rewarded. But that is my favorite and my go-to.
Yeah. So I think it's super, super important to reward periodically while you're doing, while you're building this duration, right? So there's this big concept, there's this conversation in the dog training space about, well, do you really need these, like, do you need these marker words for the duration that are like treat based, or can you just use them as bridge words? Well, I think there's room for conversation on both. Yeah. But the way that we do it is that we have a word that we charge up with the marker. That means I am asking for that duration, but I'm still going to give you a treat in the interim.
Yeah.
And the reason we have that is because I've found efficiency in teaching that duration with that. Mm-hmm. Rather than, and it's not that I think that the dogs are incapable of delaying that gratification. It's just that I've found that they relate that quicker.
Yeah.
And so I've just kept it in there, right? And we keep using it. To explain what I'm talking about, because some of these concepts are like dog trainer-esque, right? If there's dog trainers listening, they're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, and no one else does. So let me break it down real quick. Our word yes is something that we use to tell the dog to stay in the position that I'm going to come to them and hand them a treat. And then I teach them free means they're going to stop what they're doing and they're going to come to me and get a treat. Yep. The dog doesn't learn or understand anything about that other than where is the treat. Mm-hmm. So free means come get the treat. Yes means freeze. I'm coming to you to give you the treat.
Yep.
And if you teach the dog that with where is the treat, it's really easy.
Yeah, real easy.
And because by the time that they've understood that the marker means don't move, just hold here. He's coming to me.
Yeah.
They will stay there.
Right, and that's why I use place, because place is a comfortable spot for a dog, right? And they're automatically at some point going to sit and then lay down.
Yeah.
If not just straight lay down, right? I worked on place earlier with a dog, and within 5 reps, she was auto downing. And I was taking a video and I was like, oh my gosh, you're auto downing already? But most dogs understand, like, man, I get rewarded here, so I'm fine to sit here and hold it. Like, I'm fine in this position. This position's good. I get rewarded here. And so teaching it in that way just leads the dog to want to do it more often and hold it longer.
Yeah. And as we increase that time slowly, then we can then move on to mild distractions. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about distractions, the number one mistake that I see is people use $100 distractions in an environment where they needed like a $10 distraction.
Yeah.
So we've got to start slow. You can't get the dog's favorite toy and be like, cool, we're going to work on distraction, and then zing that thing across the room
right
on the first go.
Yep.
That's not what we're talking about. Good examples of distraction is just like stomping a foot.
Yeah.
Or sitting down, changing position. You change position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sitting down, then standing up, then sitting down. Or taking a knee on the ground. Or sitting down on the ground.
Right. Pretend to tie your shoe. I
dare you. Yeah, right. Those are good distractions to start with. We're not talking about, I'm going to just toss this treat right next to the place bed and see if they'll hold their place, right? It's probably not going to work out because they're going to want to get the treat.
Right. And the faster the item is moving, the quicker the dog is going to break that position.
And that's why I call it $100 distraction, because it's a $20 treat with $60 worth of speed on it. Yeah. Right. And then, like there's all these other little variables that go, because movement always will attract a dog.
Yeah.
It turns on prey drive. It turns on their like genetics to be like, oh my goodness. And it's something that the dog will always like pay attention to. Movement will always draw their attention.
And so that's how we work on like impulse control with dogs.
We
which
do.
Branches into like.
But later.
Right.
Okay, yeah. That's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
say.
And so one of the other things is like, just try rolling the ball slowly away from your dog versus throwing it in the air away from your dog.
Yep. And before you even do that, just place the toy on the ground next to you.
Away from you, yeah.
Right? Then place it away from you.
Yeah.
Then place it near them and away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Then worry about rolling it, right? Yeah. Yep. So it's just all of those concepts, they're kind of self-explanatory. But the number one thing that I see that goes wrong on that front is usually that we increase distraction too quickly for the amount of proofing that we've already completed.
Yep.
So how about towering over the dog?
Right. I think that's one of the things where people kind of spend too much time practicing is when we're teaching a dog to sit or down and we're backing away from the dog, a lot of the times the dog will end up breaking more after you've repped it out a couple times because you're still like facing them and creeping away really slowly, trying to get that distance in to build some duration. And most of the time your dog is like, I don't know what's going on. I'm going to follow you.
Right.
Because you're being a little bit weird, but you do have to do that to start off with. But eventually you need to turn around and walk away from the dog because that's a real life scenario is you turning around and just walking away from the dog versus walking backwards, staring at the dog.
What do you think is a higher distraction? You walking away, looking at the dog, or you standing right next to the dog and looking away?
Ooh, I think that depends on the dog for sure.
I guess it does depend on the dog.
But you probably walking away, I would think, because the dog always name a dog that doesn't want to follow you to the next room.
Right, and that's kind of the point of dog training in general, is that you're trying to build a better relationship with the dog. So the dog wants to hang out with you.
Yeah, it's like, no, come back.
Right.
Where are you going?
Yeah, where are you going? I want to be there.
Yeah, I want to go.
So the way that I recommend doing some of that is that you should be close to the dog, but turn around.
Yeah.
Turn your back.
Right. Go sit down on your couch across the room.
Right, exactly.
See if they don't
do
pop
some
right
of these
up.
different things, right, first, before we try to get all the way across the room, down the hall, into the other room, outside, all of these things.
Yep.
We talked, last week, about teaching place, and I kind of said the same thing, is that the number one thing that people get wrong is they try to add way too much distance and distraction in there too fast.
Right.
And they're like, 5 times, the dog has stayed for 2 whole minutes. All right, now I'm going to walk out of the house and close the door. And then they're like, man, they didn't stay.
So also, I think one thing that might be confusing for people is I keep referencing place a lot, even though this is a sit down episode, but I use place for sitting down because a dog is always usually going to be more comfortable on their place. Most dogs already have a place, whether it's a soft one, whether it's a rug, whatever. But most dogs, when you're starting sitting down, if you start on like a hardwood floor or some like weird material underneath them, you're going to have a lot harder time than you're going to have than if you choose their place bed where they're used to already sitting and laying down usually.
Yeah. One more question I wrote down was, why do dogs break before their release? And how do you fix that? The number one reason that they break before the release is because you release them at random times across the room.
Yeah.
So what that means is I've got my dog in a stay or an implied stay, sit down, right? And let's get away from Brianna's place bed that's over there in the corner, and we'll just say that they're just in a down in the middle of the room, and they're just laying there, they're being good, but I've increased my distance all the way across the room, and then I'm like, free. And then they pop up and they get super excited and they run to you to get their treat. Okay. So what I just did there was I patterned the concept that dog should always be paying attention and listening for that release. Well, some people would say, well, that's good. That's exactly what I want. Okay, I understand. But there are other words in the English language that sound the same. If you're over there and you say something 3 when the dog is listening for free, a high likelihood that they're going to come running.
Yep.
Second issue is that sometimes a dog will start making it up in their head, being like, I think they released me.
Yeah.
And then tear off trying to, come to you and get a treat. And you're like, I didn't say any of that. So instead of patterning that, that's where that contact release comes into play.
Yeah.
And so if you have a dog that's auto-releasing themselves regularly, then I would recommend that you teach them a contact release, or at least a proximity release.
Yeah.
Where you always walk towards them and get within 1 arm's distance before you release them. All right. The last point, duration for commands in real life. How do we bring it all together? So when we're talking about building real, like, useful structure in the house, we've got to not just use sit and down as party tricks, but we've got to use it to actually teach the dog some emotional regulation.
Yep.
And some impulse control. How do we do that?
Threshold manners.
Threshold manners. So, right, we use sit at the door. That is a great one right off the bat.
Yeah.
We can use sit anytime we go through a door.
Yep.
We sit, we wait, we ask for access. We wait for that thumbs up.
Yeah.
The dog waits. So I go to the door. Before I even open the door, I ask for a sit, and then I just wait. When the dog sits, then I open the door. Not before.
Yeah, never before. And then...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to move on unless you're ready. Okay. Use down during meals or downtime to promote calmness around the house. Down during meals is a big one because I know a lot of dogs that beg for dinner.
Right.
As soon as you whip out yours. So giving them a place to down or some time to lay down gives them the indication that it's just time to relax. So instead of pacing around or rubbing up against somebody or barking at you or pawing at you, get the dog into a down and teach them that that's where they need to be when you're at the kitchen table.
Yeah. And we can build, once we've got some of that duration, we can use the stay or that implied stay with any of those commands to elongate that impulse control.
Yep.
So then instead of just sitting at the door until I open it, it's sitting at the door until I walk through the threshold and then invite the dog. And then it's sit at the door until I walk through the door and stand on the other side for a little while. Same thing with the down. Okay, then they're holding it down while you're eating and you get through the whole meal, right? We're just increasing that duration regardless. But we want to use that duration, or duration and stay are synonymous, right? They're the same thing. So we want to use that duration, we want to use that stay as a tool to also teach a dog that you're not going to forget about them. So just placing your dog in a stay until eventually they break is shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
You've got to build it slowly. And if you get to the point where you're like, oh man, they can't go past this point, then you have to slow down and you have to build it from there. You can't just be like, it's the uninterrupted stay that's important. And as you build that duration, you going back and showing your dog that like, hey, I didn't forget about you. Now you can get up. Let's go. And throwing a party, not just being calm about it, but really throwing that party is super important.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your dog's like, well, why did I hang out here for the last 40 minutes or whatever it is? You want to teach your dog that predictability, that you're going to come back. There's going to be a reward. There's going to be something worthwhile here.
Yeah.
All right. Then we can integrate our short little daily sessions, and we want to prevent regression.
Yeah.
We have to maintain consistency. Dog training is all about consistency. And with that consistency, we've got to build in those short little refresher sessions.
Yeah.
So that we don't go backwards and lose our sharpness on those skills.
Yep.
It's the only way you're going to make progress. Lastly, we want to reward compliance, especially calm compliance, rather than simply avoiding like breaking the position, right? When a dog is exhibiting or showing that they want, or that they're offering a behavior, that is far and above just us telling the dog what to do. So when they offer that behavior that you have wanted them to do, that's the best party that you got to throw.
Yeah.
You've got to go 10x.
Yep.
Because if you don't, it won't explain to the dog what you're really trying to accomplish here. It's guidance is good. Leadership is great. But when they do it on their own, that's even better. So don't miss out on those opportunities to throw that party and or shape their behavior by rewarding them, giving them food or a treat or a bone or something like that when they offer that behavior. All right. What other type of real life situations does sit down and duration come into play?
Taking your dog out in public.
Yeah.
When you take your dog out in public, if your dog is just like wandering around you, one, it's probably anxious. And two, somebody's probably going to reach out and touch it without asking, because that's the number one thing people will do if you don't have your dog.
People love to pet random dogs.
Right near you. But if you're like taking your dog out somewhere to eat, right? Your dog should be able to go into a down and stay in a down for you to eat a meal. Like that's one of the things that we do with our dogs a lot of the times. If one of the owner's goals is to take the dog out in public, is to go places with the dog and eat a meal with them like their parents would. And let them know like that they need to hold that down the entire time. Obviously, like making sure your dog goes to the bathroom and everything beforehand is like a big thing that we teach at one of our lessons. But that's one of the big things where it's really important to have.
Yeah. The last question I had written down talks about what's the difference between a dog that just obeys commands versus a dog that truly understands duration. And to answer that question, I think that concept of emotional regulation and impulse control is what differentiates that. So a dog that obeys is a dog that you told to lay down, and they are laying down, but they are ready to pop up. At any moment, they are going to pop up out of there. They are ready. They are just waiting for you to say free, and I'm ready to go. A dog that you put into a down who understands duration and you give them that continuation, a lot of times you'll see them kind of like roll that hip, right?
Yeah.
They roll that hip and they're like, all right, I might be here for a minute. I'm going to get comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And they regulate their own emotions. They like control their own thoughts.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, I'm just going to relax.
Yep.
I'm just going to turn off.
Mm-hmm.
That is the value of duration, and that's really the end state. That's the goal.
Yeah.
All right. So before we hit that hour mark, we're at like 55 minutes or so. I'm going to open it up for questions. We don't have many tuned in tonight due to the cell phone disruption issue here, but we will open it up here for for a minute and see if anybody has any questions.
Right. My phone still doesn't work. It's been all day.
Right. My personal cell phone works and my business line is dead. Don't know why. No questions, no questions. No whammies, no whammies.
That was a good show.
Right. It was a good show. I don't know that good is the right. It was slightly entertaining.
I used to like it back in the day. The new version is not as good.
All right. Then we will, no questions tonight. We will kind of wrap it up there. The listener projects. So, number 1, 10-second rule. Ask your dog for a sit or down and hold that position for 10 seconds. Let me make sure I got, yep. So hold that position. Your goal is 10 seconds at the beginning, then 11, 12, 13, 14, right? We add duration, but the goal here for this project is just 10 seconds. Mark with something, your marker words that build that continuation marker, and give those rewards so that you can kind of accrue that time. And then release. We release with free and keep the early reps upbeat and super fun. Repeat that, 4 or 5 times every day and see what kind of progress you can make. Listener project number 2, downstay with movement. So the movement we're talking about is yours. Put your dog into a down and then take 2 quiet steps backward. Then return to your dog. Come back to him. And then mark that nice, calm holding of that down with yes and reward. Or you can do the opposite where you can touch them, right? A little tap on the head and go free. And then you can back up away from your dog and let them pop up and be super excited to run to you and get that reward. Gradually increase your steps over the week in order to build that confidence.
Yeah.
All right. We got I was going to say short and sweet, but it was still like 57 minutes. Tonight, that is all we got for you. We talked about sit down, stay, both implied and intentional. I'm trying to see. I don't have anything else to add here. So I'm going to say goodnight for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you enjoy listening to us come at you every week with some random dog training stuff, I'd love for you to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify Podcasts or Amazon Podcasts or all sorts of, we're on all of the different networks. The RSS feeds are great for that. If you've got, we're always trying to get better, right? I am not a professional podcaster by any stretch. We're always trying to get better. So if you've got a comment, leave us a comment, leave us a like, let us know how we're doing and how we can improve. All right. Thanks everybody.
Good night.